For weeks, the entertainment industry had been shaken to its very core. Rumors swirled, whispers filled every corner of social media, and fans all over the world demanded to know what really happened to Yu Menglong. Every post, every video, every photo seemed to carry a shadow of mystery. But no one was ready for what came next. It started one quiet evening in Beijing when the lights of the city seemed to dim under the heavy weight of speculation. Wang Yibo, usually calm and reserved, was seen entering a private studio near the television tower. Cameras tried to catch a glimpse of him, but the tension on his face said more than words ever could. He wasn't there for another performance or an interview. He was there to record a message that would soon shake the entire industry. A few hours later, Xiao Zhan arrived. His expression was solemn, his eyes distant but filled with determination. The two men, known for their strong bond both on and off screen, hadn't appeared together in public for months. But tonight was different. They weren't here as actors or idols. They were here as friends, standing for someone who could no longer speak for himself. Inside the studio, silence filled the room as the cameras began to roll. Wang Yibo's voice trembled slightly as he started. "We have stayed quiet for too long," he said, his tone low but steady. "There are moments in life when silence becomes unbearable. Today is that day." His words carried weight, echoing through the still air. Xiao Zhan placed a hand on the table, his knuckles tightening. When he finally spoke, the emotion in his voice caught everyone off guard. "Yu Menglong was more than a colleague," Xiao Zhan began, his eyes glistening with emotion. "He was a brother to us. We laughed together, worked side by side, and shared dreams about the future. Seeing how his story was twisted broke something inside us. But the truth deserves to be heard." The clip, once uploaded, spread faster than wildfire. Fans couldn't believe what they were watching. The two most admired stars of the generation speaking with raw emotion, breaking the wall of silence that had surrounded the incident. Within minutes, the video reached millions of views. Hashtags flooded the internet, all calling for justice and truth. As the hours passed, more details surfaced. People who had worked on Yu Menglong's last project started to speak out. Crew members shared unseen moments, revealing how passionate and kind he had been behind the scenes. One assistant mentioned how Yu often stayed late to rehearse with younger actors who struggled with their lines, never complaining, never seeking praise. His dedication became legendary among those who knew him closely. Meanwhile, Wang Yibo's manager confirmed that the video wasn't a publicity stunt. It was real. Both stars had decided, on their own, to release the message despite warnings from their teams. They knew it would stir attention, the manager said. But they didn't care. They wanted the truth out there. The following morning, the nation woke up to the most emotional press conference in recent memory. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation as cameras lined up, ready to capture every second. Xiao Zhan walked in first, dressed in black, followed closely by Wang Yibo. The crowd went silent. Reporters lowered their microphones as if afraid to break the fragile moment. Wang Yibo stepped to the podium and took a deep breath. "The truth," he said firmly, "is something we can't bury. It doesn't matter how long it takes. It always finds a way to rise." The room trembled with applause, but Yibo's face remained unreadable. He continued, describing the pain of watching someone they admired become the center of lies and confusion. "We knew Menglong as a person who loved peace, laughter, and sincerity. What the world saw was only a fragment of who he really was." Xiao Zhan then took over, his tone shifting from calm to intense. "We have evidence," he said. "We have seen the real story behind what happened, and we will not stay silent any longer." Gasps filled the room. Reporters leaned closer, eyes wide with disbelief. For the first time, someone close to Yu Menglong was publicly acknowledging there was more to the story than the public knew. As the press conference continued, Yibo shared messages that Yu Menglong had sent shortly before everything unfolded. They were full of hope and plans for the future, messages of excitement about new projects, and his gratitude toward the people who supported him. The sincerity in those words shattered any remaining doubt. Outside, thousands of fans gathered with banners, holding candles and signs that read "Justice for Yu Menglong." The streets were filled with quiet tears and the kind of unity rarely seen in the entertainment world. Even people who had never met him felt the ache of loss and the relief that finally, someone was standing up for him. Later that night, Xiao Zhan posted a photo on his official page. It was a simple image of the three of them together, smiling during a break on set. The caption read, "You'll always be one of us." It broke the internet within minutes. Messages from fans poured in from across the globe, expressing their love and gratitude. Behind the scenes, producers and directors who once worked with Yu began to open up. They shared unseen footage, moments that revealed his personality and humor. One clip showed Yu laughing uncontrollably after forgetting his lines, another showed him helping a young crew member fix a camera issue. These small glimpses painted a picture of a man who was deeply loved and deeply human. In the days that followed, both Wang Yibo and Xiao Zhan were praised for their courage. Their fans called them voices of truth and thanked them for standing by a friend when it mattered most. The entertainment board announced that a foundation would be established in Yu Menglong's name, supporting young actors and creators who struggled to find their place in the industry. During an interview a week later, Wang Yibo was asked what made him finally speak out. He paused, eyes fixed on the floor before answering softly. "Sometimes, doing the right thing is not about timing. It's about conscience." Menglong was a good man, and good men deserve peace, even in memory. The interviewer went silent. The entire studio did. There was nothing left to say. By the end of the month, the phrase "Justice for Yu Menglong" had become more than a hashtag. It was a movement, a reminder that truth cannot be hidden forever. Fans around the world celebrated not only Yu's legacy but also the courage of those who refused to let his story fade away. And so, under the bright lights of fame and the heavy shadows of loss, two friends stood taller than ever. Wang Yibo and Xiao Zhan had turned pain into purpose, and silence into power. Their message echoed across every screen, every heart, every home. The truth was finally out. Justice, at last, had found its way. The next morning, social media was in chaos. Every corner of the internet buzzed with one question: did Wang Yibo and Xiao Zhan just confirm everything? The video clip of their live conversation had already reached millions, translated into dozens of languages, and replayed endlessly by fans who couldn't believe what they had just witnessed. But that was only the beginning. Hours later, a second clip surfaced, one that no one was prepared for. It showed Wang Yibo and Xiao Zhan meeting in a quiet studio room, away from the cameras, where the raw emotions began to unfold. The world had seen them act, they had seen them smile, but never had anyone seen them like this, unfiltered, vulnerable, and honest. Yibo sat by the piano, fingers trembling slightly as he tried to find the right words. Xiao Zhan, standing behind him, finally spoke first, his voice low and steady. "He didn't deserve what happened. No one did. But I promised him once that the truth would not disappear." That sentence alone sent waves of silence through everyone watching. It wasn't a performance, it wasn't a press statement, it was pain, woven into every word. Yibo finally looked up, eyes glistening with quiet determination. He was more than a co-star, more than a friend. He believed in people when the world didn't believe in him. "We failed him once, but we won't fail him again." And then it happened. Yibo pressed a key on the piano, a slow melody began to fill the room, the same tune that had once played during one of their early dramas together. Xiao Zhan joined in, humming softly, and for a brief moment, time itself seemed to stand still. It wasn't about fame or cameras or trending charts anymore, it was about closure, about giving peace to someone who couldn't be there to speak for himself. The internet exploded again. Fans wrote thousands of comments, their emotions pouring out like rivers. "This isn't just acting, this is healing. They brought justice through truth. You can feel the sincerity in every breath they take." The wave of emotion transcended boundaries. Fans from Japan, Thailand, the Philippines, and beyond came together under one banner: Justice for Yu Menglong. But while the public cried and shared, few knew what was happening privately. Later that night, Xiao Zhan uploaded a post with no caption, just a picture of a folded letter resting beside a script. Observant fans noticed the faint handwriting on the page, which read, "Thank you for keeping your promise." Theories spread like wildfire. Was it a letter from Yu Menglong that had never been shared before? Or was it Xiao Zhan's tribute to his late friend? No one could confirm, but the gesture alone carried enough weight to quiet the internet for hours. Meanwhile, Wang Yibo took a different path. During his solo live event 2 days later, a fan asked him directly, "Do you regret not speaking earlier?" The studio went silent. He leaned forward, hands clasped, and said with quiet conviction, "Timing matters. Sometimes silence isn't weakness, it's waiting for the right moment to be heard. Now, it's time." Those words became headlines across the world. Within minutes, the clip reached every major entertainment outlet in Asia. Celebrities began reposting it, sharing their own memories of Yu Menglong, and praising Yibo and Xiao Zhan for their courage to speak up. But perhaps the most emotional moment came a few days later, when both actors appeared at a small memorial event, organized privately but streamed by fans. The stage was simple, just a single spotlight and a photograph framed at the center. Xiao Zhan held a white rose in his hand, while Yibo placed a folded paper crane beside the frame. He whispered softly, "We finally did it." Xiao Zhan nodded, unable to hold back his tears. And the world finally listened. The audience, both in person and online, wept silently. It wasn't the grand speeches or the staged interviews that mattered, it was this quiet, genuine act of remembrance that struck the deepest chord. By the end of that night, the hashtags #Justice for Yu Menglong and #The Truth Is Out ranked #1 across multiple platforms. Even those who had once doubted the sincerity of celebrity friendships were forced to rethink everything. This wasn't a publicity stunt, it was the soul of two men honoring someone who had changed them forever. A week later, something even more unexpected happened. The production company behind one of Yu Menglong's unfinished projects released a short teaser, a new adaptation that would be completed using old footage and a narration recorded by both Wang Yibo and Xiao Zhan. The title card read, "For You, a Story Unfinished." The internet broke again. Fans described it as a full-circle moment, a symbolic act of healing not just for the industry but for everyone who had followed the story from the beginning. Critics praised the decision, calling it one of the most respectful tributes in modern entertainment history. Yibo's voice could be heard at the end of the trailer, narrating softly. "Even when the light fades, memories remain. And sometimes, the loudest justice is spoken through silence." The following days felt like peace after a storm. Online discussions shifted from outrage to gratitude. People began to share old clips of Yu Menglong smiling, laughing, performing. His legacy had transformed, from a misunderstood story to a symbol of resilience. Xinyu, who had once worked closely with all three, posted a rare message that evening. He always said kindness echoes. And now, I finally understand. The post went viral, not because of its drama, but because of its purity. It was the perfect closing note to a story that had started in chaos but ended with compassion. By the end of the month, Wang Yibo and Xiao Zhan quietly resumed their projects. Neither of them addressed the event again, they didn't need to. The world had heard them loud and clear. Their silence after truth became louder than any interview or statement could ever be. And as fans replayed the piano melody that had started it all, a collective understanding filled the air, that this wasn't just a story about fame, friendship, or loss. It was a reminder of humanity in its rawest form, of people who used their voices not for themselves, but for justice, love, and remembrance. And in that final silence, Yu Menglong's spirit lived on, not as a tragedy, but as truth fulfilled.